Welcome back, everybody. Sport Federation TV. We love talking about sport in the province, in the Western Cape province. Now you will know that last year we in fact we've been focusing on it for a very long time now. They've been on the show on a number of occasions. Tug of War is one of the South African teams that has got the absolute best international results, if you didn't know this. But to tell me more about that, and for those of you that don't know this, today is in fact International Tug of War Day. And to join me on the line to tell me more about Tug of War in the Western Cape, South Africa and across the world, Anton Botha. Anton, welcome back to Federation TV.
Thank you, JP. Great to be talking to you again.
Yes, it's fantastic to have you back on the line. We know things are still difficult with lockdown. We know that there are still regulations out there that makes it very difficult. But before you start telling me about what Tug of War is up to in the province, I believe that today is International Tug of War Day.
Yes, absolutely. I must be honest, I don't know who came up with this idea, but internationally we grasped the opportunity, and worldwide on this day we are raising awareness for the sport. As you well know, we want to get back into the Olympic Games. We want to get on the Commonwealth program. So today is the day that all 73 countries in the world utilize for a massive marketing effect.
Anton, you're talking about International Tug of War here. Clearly, everybody in the world talking about it right now. So I want to ask you about it from a South African perspective. How long has Tug of War been in South Africa? How did it start?
Well, Tug of War started in South Africa in the 1880s. It was brought over by the British. They pretty much spread the sport across the world. And a lot of teams were established here in South Africa, amongst the railway, the SA Police. The first school that we know about is the Paul Roos Gymnasium that was doing Tug of War in the 1896. And it's only a little bit later when it became a little bit more organized. National Federation was established, and then we became part of the International Tug of War Federation. So about 140 years that we've been busy with the sport in this country.
140 years of Tug of War in South Africa. I mean, that's a fair amount of history. I seem to remember back in the day, Tug of War guys would all be pulling in their rugby jerseys.
Yeah, it's pretty much still to this day. We have some of the teams have a little bit of reinforcement on the right side of the jersey, but most teams still pulling in the good old rugby jerseys. I think there's one thing I need to add, that we're very proud of the fact that Tug of War was the first team sport in South Africa participated at the Olympic Games, and that was already at the Olympic Games of 1904. 1904 was the first Olympics that South Africa participated in. We all know about the three guys that ran the marathon, but on the day after the it was the Tug of War competition in which South Africa participated and got a well-deserved fifth place for our very first attempt at the Olympic Games.
Anton, but let's stay on that thread for a while there. Let's talk about Tug of War as South Africa is doing for Tug of War in the world. You talk about 73 countries that are participating in Tug of War. How is South Africa doing from a ranking point of view amongst those 73 countries?
We're actually doing very well. Our national ladies team is currently ranked 3rd in the world, so that pretty much, it's the highest ranking national ladies team of all sports in South Africa is the National Tug of War ladies team. Not a lot of people know about that. Then, of course, our heavyweight men's team, they are also ranked 3rd in the world. And then we're very, very proud that two of our SA schools teams, the SA ladies team, the junior school team, as well as the mixed team, they both have world championship titles. They are the current world champions in the sport. So we are doing extremely well.
Anton, let's move a little bit to the Western Cape. From an events point of view, and maybe even in South Africa, we know that the restrictions are still in place. COVID regulations are still very tight, and all the sport codes, such as yourself, have these strict regulations when it comes to events and participation. How are we doing from a Western Cape Tug of War perspective?
The people have been training from January. In fact, tomorrow we have our first what we call national test camp. Test camps, let me rather say that, because of COVID, we are doing that decentralized. We have specific regulations or specific standards that needs to be met for the different teams. So at 7 different locations across South Africa tomorrow, the targets would get together and they are being tested. And that pretty much is the start of our season, which of course leads up to the World Championships, which will later this year be in Spain during September.
So am I right in saying you've got 7 different locations across the country where there will be some tug of war, and one of those locations is in the Western Cape?
That is correct, yes.
What happens then? Well, first of all, tell us where in the Western Cape?
Oh, it will be in Strand at the headquarters of the Western Province Tug of War. Of course, in Eden and Witherberg, there will also be test camps. There will be a test camp in Winelands. So if we speak about Western Cape, about 4 different occasions that we will have the test camps tomorrow.
So 4 different locations in the Western Cape for test camps coming up this weekend, the day after International Tug of War Day. I'm sure everybody's going to be very proud of the fact that today everyone's talking about World International Tug of War Day. And then what happens there, Anton? Do they, if you say it's a test camp, do your teams get ranked somehow to help you then choose a national side?
It is pretty much a individual standards that they need to meet, and from that we choose our different groupings. We have a grouping, a B grouping, and a C grouping, or we call it a green, a blue, and a development grouping. So according to your standards which you reach, we have these different groupings, and they will then continue, and there will be continued test camps. Then when the season starts from 10th April, in fact, then the different teams will be looked at. We will have trials. So we have a stringent way that we go through and selection process. But as an individual, you need to reach a certain minimum standard. You need to be a certain strength, certain amount of stamina to be part of that high performance group. From the high performance groups, the different parts of them, is that the teams are then selected.
So if you are an individual that is participating in a team, because when you do tug of war, you're not pulling as one person, you're pulling as a team, how do you select the individuals that will then make up your team? Because, I mean, it must be quite complicated, because how do you know who's the strongest guy on the rope?
Well, that's pretty much the standards of the test camp show us who is the strong guys. Then our selection process goes further and we select a core team. Now you will normally find that those clubs or provinces with the most strong guys, they of course win the nationals and so on. And then we select that core group, and they can add other individuals to that. The selectors do that, and then they are pitted again amongst each other, pretty much like Springbok trials, that type of thing. So first off, you need to be individually strong, and then also perform as a team, and we take it from there.
Anton, we'll say thanks to you, of course. Looking forward to see how the athletes going to do in these trials in the Western Cape, and hopefully we get a lot of Western Cape athletes in the national team. And we'll say obviously to you and the teams out there and the athletes, stay safe, and we look forward to chatting again.
Thank you. I can tell you that most of the national team athletes do come from the Western Cape. So we basically are Tug of War South Africa.
Fantastic stuff. There we go, folks. Anton Botha, patron for Western Cape Tug of War. Do yourself a favor, go visit their website, www.westerncapetugofwar.co.za. Fascinating. Today is International World Tug of War Day. And who would have known that our very first South African team to ever participate in the Olympics back in 1904 was a South African tug of war team. Incredible history there. Folks, we'll take an ad break. When we come back from the break, we'll carry on talking about sport in the province. Back in a sec.